Welcome to the Business Spotlight on WXPM 98.5 FM, showcasing all the great local businesses in the area.
Welcome to the WXPM Business Spotlight. Joining us in studio is Curt Reichwein. Curt, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your life up until this point.
Well, my name's Curt, and I'm a retired school teacher. I've been a music fan my whole life, 60 years old, and bought my first record when I was 10, and I still have that record. So I've been collecting music my whole life. I worked in a record shop when I was a younger man, through the late 80s and up through the 90s, up till my kid was born as a part-time job. And not too long ago, my wife and I were getting to the point we were going to retire, and she said, "Hey, we should open a record shop, when we retire." And I thought, all right, something to consider. And then the shop that was there was he was going to retire from doing that because that was his retirement gig. So he kind of said, "Hey, you should take over here and keep this going." Mm-hmm. So a little bit of challenges coming out of COVID, getting that whole thing rolling, and here we are today. We're going to come up on our second anniversary the end of April.
All right. And you mentioned before we started recording a scholarship program that you had in mind. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, it's something that we're considering starting here in the local school district. As a former educator, furthering kids' futures is always in the forefront of lots of people's mind. And the truth of the matter is, college is expensive. Opportunities are available, but not everybody's aware of that. So we're looking to get something started with the shop that can bring some awareness to not just the music business, but it could be anything from, like I said earlier, it could be broadcasting, it could be production work for theaters, to music retail, to becoming a music educator. So this is the kind of thing we're kind of bouncing around so that we can become a bigger part of the community here in Phoenixville. It's something that we have decided when we started the business that we really want it to be part of the community here, not just a business in the community, but become a business as part of this community.
Right. And what's your background in music? You ever played before? You play music at all?
When I was a kid, my mom and dad said to me, I was probably at that time, probably about 10, and my mom said, "Hey, Dad and I have been thinking, it would be good if you learned how to play an instrument." And I said, "Okay." And my mom said, "Well, what would you like to play?" And I said, "Guitar, of course. Who wouldn't want to be a guitar player?" And she said, "Well, that's great because you start piano lessons tomorrow morning." So I was kind of like, "Really? Piano?" So 4 years of piano, and not that I didn't like it, but, as you're growing up, the fumes get in the way. Right. The perfumes, the gas fumes, all those sorts of things. So you have to make some decisions. So before I became a fat guy, I was a swimmer. So I wanted to swim through high school. I was, obviously I was dating at the time, fixing up cars, all that stuff. So something had to give. And piano was fine, but it wasn't like something I really enjoyed doing from the perspective of playing an instrument. It wasn't the instrument I wanted to play, but as I've gotten older in life, I realized the piano is kind of the root instrument to learn to play other instruments. But I've never picked it back up since.
Did you ever pick up guitar?
I did, briefly, but didn't go anywhere with it, really. Just was kind of fiddling around. It was like, I just don't have time. So there's only so much time in a day, so you have to choose wisely.
Right. And you said something about swimming. What are your other interests?
As you go through life, your interests change and evolve because of conditions in your life. As a younger man, I started swimming competitively. I don't know, I was 8 or 9 years old, and swam all the way up through high school. But interest-wise, I guess the biggest interest has always been for me has been music. I have a pretty large music collection that I've curated throughout my life. But I enjoy fishing. That's something my father and I used to do quite often. I raised a family, so your interests become what your children's interests are, and so your kids get involved in different things at school or sports, local sports, community ed stuff. Just you get involved with your kids' interests and that sort of thing. So now that my children are grown and moved out, and we're empty nesters now, my wife and I are starting to do more things that we have always wanted to sit back and do. We've gardened together for a lifetime, and this kind of thing. So we're just. It's hard to say what any one interest is because, like I said, things constantly are evolving.
Mm-hmm. In the shop, we often talk about live music whenever I go and buy a record. Who are your favorite acts to see live?
I get that question all the time. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite album? Who's your favorite band? And that's like an impossible question to answer for me. My music tastes are pretty varied. And the crazy part is, like I don't listen to Led Zeppelin, for instance, in the wintertime because they're a summertime band.
Yeah, I get that too.
They're like things like remind you of something, and you say to yourself, geez, this is cool, and man, what a great song. You see it in a movie or whatever, and then you go back and you pick up that record or that artist again. Somebody puts out a new record, and like this week's new Black Crowes record came out, and I thought, man, such a good record. It really harkens back to their earlier stuff. So now I've been kind of jumping through their catalog. So it's hard for me to identify a singular thing. There are lots of, let's just put it this way, I like lots of music.
Right. And obviously you support local bands. I've seen the section in your shop. Who are some of your favorite acts to come out of Phoenixville?
There are a lot of great acts. I mean, the Colonial brings in tons of great national acts. Mm-hmm. But local speaking, Dave Hawes and the Mermaid is great. Dave's a local guy from Roxborough. Now he lives out in California. The Tisburys, another band out of Philly. They're Manayunk area. They're great. We had a player come in, goes by The Natural, also an excellent player. There's a lot of great local music just here, right in this area, and some of those folks have brought their records in, and that made us think, hey, let's just start this local bin and put everybody who's in there that's local to us or startup kind of band. People are just trying to get their name out there so that they can play here and there. And like last summer, we do the street closures here in Phoenixville, and I try to book bands to come play out in front of the shop. I have a friend of mine who plays in a band called the Grundles. They've played our shop as the grand opening, and we had them again last year at our 1-year anniversary, and I have to reach out to them to get those guys to come out here sometime in May. But I just like live music, regardless of who it is, But we tried to, like last summer, I had 8 bands booked, and we had rain 5 of those weekends.
Oh, man.
So that makes it tough, especially since the shop has grown so much. It's hard to put bands inside the store now. So I know coming up this summer we're going to have Tucked In come back around and play with us. They're local. Everybody knows who Tucked In here is in town. They're a great band. We carry their music. If anybody's looking to purchase some Tucked In, we have both of their releases in stock, as well as a myriad of other local artists. So swing through and check it out. It's always evolving and changing.
And is it satisfying to know that you have a large role in the music scene here in Phoenixville?
I don't know that my role is large. I just feel like I'm part of the bigger system. And it is satisfying. There's nothing cooler than when someone comes in and finds, oh man, I've been looking for this record for so long, or wow, I didn't know you could get this still, or here's a cool band, you could turn somebody on, like you're playing something, and who is this, and you tell them who it is, and here it is, and they buy it and they take it with them. It's fun just to make people happy, especially in the world we live today. Happiness isn't a priority, it seems. So it's nice when you can turn somebody on to something, make their day. And for me, I still shop in other record shops. I mean, the best shop in Philadelphia is Main Street Music in Manayunk. Pat Feeney and his crew are top shelf. And I go there without a list. I mean, I own my own record shop, but I still shop at other shops like Siren up in Doylestown. I'll go up there and shop with those guys. Blair and his group are also amazing. And I often come out of there with something that I wasn't expecting to find.
Yeah.
And I go into shops without a list because it feels more like a journey. Then it feels like you've set off to find something you didn't know was there. So you find that diamond in the rough and it makes your day. Well, that's the biggest part of what we do. I enjoy having people dig through the bins and then they wow, what a great selection we have here, and this, that, and the other thing, and younger kids are coming in. We sell CDs. We buy used vinyl and CDs. We sell CDs by the ton every week. And because we sell them at the right price. And kids want physical music. That Spotify thing is just a button.
Yeah.
So there's no ownership there. Whereas you buy that, whatever it is, whether you buy an Usher CD or a Van Halen record or whatever it happens to be, it's yours. You own it. You can touch it. You can see it. You can read the lyrics, go through all the liner notes. That's the rush, man.
Yeah. And like other record stores, Forever Changes, they have a dollar section. Would you ever consider doing that and just have people come in and find just random records for $1?
So we have a bargain bin, and our bargain bin ranges from $1 to $5. The majority of the records are in great condition. I wash and clean every record, so it's hard for me to sell a record for $1.
Yeah.
For a couple reasons. The dollar bin thing is great for putting, hey, I'm going to spend $1. I've never heard of this, but the cover looks cool. I'll take it for $1. But the time and effort I put in to clean them, all the rest of the stuff that goes with that, because you won't buy a dirty record in my shop.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that anybody else's shop has dirty records, but it's hard to put the time and effort into cleaning it and then pricing it for $1. So, lots of times when I take records that I would consider dollar records, I usually donate them to local thrift stores and whatnot, because people will take them up there. It takes up too much floor space, and we have a lot of used vinyl. So our bargain bin is pretty deep. We have a lot of customers that buy specifically out of the bargain bin because they can come in, especially if they're young, getting into collecting, or even an old folk guy like myself, just getting into back into records. Right? It's like, I don't want to spend $30 for one new record where I can get 5 or 6 for $30 out of the used bins, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we also sell what I call better used that are priced accordingly based on, current rates and things for those pressings or artists, So there's a lot of ways to reach out to people to get them interested in vinyl, and certainly a dollar bin or a bargain bin is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
Because I think once people start listening to records, it's an experience. It's not like listening to a stream.
Yeah.
Or in some cases even radio. College radio is great. I love that because it's the show's content are varied and lots of genres, and you're covering large time spans. But there's something about a record, whereas you turn on the radio, a cassette, a CD, you can kind of just go about your day, and it's just filling the air with something other than silence. But with a record, it's a little bit like a movie in that you have to sit down and give time to it. So, in 25 minutes, you have to flip that record.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the music stops. So it's kind of like you immerse yourself in a little bit more. So therefore, it sticks.
Yeah.
A CD will do the same thing, but I feel like with a CD today, still you throw 5 or 6 in a changer, you hit shuffle, and you can go paint the living room for 5 hours and not have to worry about the music stopping.
Right.
So for me, having a record, whether you paid $1 or $1,000 for it, it's about that experience, that warmth, that richness of being in that moment with the band.
Kind of that magic to it. Do you think that like the music today is as magical or special as it used to be? Like, even 20 years ago? That's
a great question. I feel like everybody has their own criteria for what makes their clock tick. As a guy at 60 years of age, I've been listening to music for a long time and lots of different music. And I say this often. Music is, first of all, there's no life without music for me.
Right.
The big piece is that every song has a moment. And every moment has a song. So, you could talk about this, that, and the other thing. And like for me, whenever I hear "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles, it takes me right back to the moment I held my second child for the first time. She was born, and the nurses handed her to me, and I just looked at the window at the moment. The shades were closed because it was night when we were in the hospital, and there was just this little bit of a gap and the sun was starting to come up, and that song popped into my head. It wasn't playing in the room;
right.
It just popped into my head, and that song is forever tied to that exact moment, and it takes me right back there every time. And I feel like music does that for everybody, whether it's a good moment, a bad moment, or just an indifferent moment. Just like, hey, this really reminds me of high school, not any particular moment in high school. So music is a passion that people measure differently. I mean, I have a friend who says, I'm not even sure why people listen to music. He's a talk radio guy. Mm-hmm. And my response is, I'm not sure why people listen to talk radio.
Yeah.
You know, it's everybody has their own thing. So music is a magic thing. And so today's music for people, I believe, does the same thing for old farts like me that've been doing this forever.
Right.
You know, I think everybody has what makes magic click for them, you know?
Yeah, and there's always going to be music for every person. And, you know, I've got songs, I'm only 16. I've got music that will take me back to something that happened last year or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And I just like,
sure,
it could be like a great moment, and I'll like play that song 5 times just to like remember it.
That's right. Sometimes whether it's you're learning an instrument, you're just trying to nail that riff. You know, when I was growing up, everybody wanted to be Eddie Van Halen.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be Eddie, play like Eddie, sound like Eddie, you know, or they had their favorite front man or their favorite hip hop guy or whatever, you know. The thing about all of this is as music evolves, tastes evolve, technology evolves, all these things come into play, and there's some really great feelings that come out of all of this. It's an emotional experience.
Yeah.
It's great.
How does owning a record store help to kind of bring more diversity into a music scene, I guess?
You know, so record stores, music stores, you know, music shops, you know, they sell instruments and whatnot to help you make that music you love. And lots of times people get into playing instruments because of the music they love, and they want to be a part of that. For us, you know, my wife and I, even my kids, we're concert freaks. And when I used to work at a record shop in King of Prussia 100 years ago, it feels like, called Record Revolution. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first day on the job, I walked in, and my boss says, well, hey, we got 2 tickets tonight for Tears for Fears and Michael Pan the Man. Who wants to go? Well, I'm in. Let's go. So we closed up early, and away we went. And it got to the point where we would go to concerts were always free for us because, you know, that's how it was in the record industry. You know, they give you tickets, prizes, all kinds of stuff. You know, they have display awards and all this, and it was great. But as a result of that, I got to see a million artists that I would not have paid to see, but I'm glad I saw. So the experience really morphed out of, you know, that ability to have access. Well, not everybody does, and today, you know, like, I'm a Pearl Jam freak. I logged in to buy Pearl Jam tickets 2 weeks ago, and tickets were $872 for the floor. That's Pearl Jam saying, you know, hey, you know, we're anti-scalper, so we're going to set the prices the way. Well, $872? Find me an 18-year-old kid who's got that kind of money that's not funded by mom and dad.
Who just wants to go see a concert.
Right. So what do? We go to awesome local venues here, like the Polish Club. Brings in all kinds of great bands, all ages clubs, all this, that, the other thing. So, you know, music and record shops it's all a community. Right down from the place where you buy the guitar to go see somebody play the guitar or to come buy records of the guy that's playing the guitar. Yeah. And it's all this community that's kind of intertwined together. And I think it's an important part of a community because without music, there's no life, at least in my world. I cannot take it when you walk into a place that there's no reason that it's dead quiet. Nobody's talking or anything. You know, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I mentioned a little while back that I was an engineer earlier in my career before I became a teacher. And one of the things, I walked into my first job and I'm carrying a box with, you know, radio in it. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, that's a radio.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we don't do that around here. I'm like, well, we do now because I can't work in silence.
Right.
That make me insane.
Yeah.
So, I leave the shop and we just keep playing music. We go home, whether we turn a stereo on and put something else on, I don't listen to music through earbuds because that's not a music experience that I enjoy. Of course, I wear hearing aids, so it's kind of hard. But still, even before I did that, it's not an experience that I want to share, man. Hey, what do you guys want to listen to? Let's put this on.
Right.
So, music shops, record shops, all this stuff is intertwined in such a way that it builds community.
Yeah, I'm happy we got like Steel City downtown. I work there. There's always music playing, and there's
Always.
some acts playing.
Yep.
Open
mic nights.
Yeah. It's
you want
great.
to see great music. Great music is not dictated by the ticket price. Great music is dictated by the soul of the musician. And when you go into places like Steel City that are having an open mic night, you're watching musicians get up there and they get a time frame to play, and that might be their first audition in front of live people, or it might be their 10,000th time they've stood in front of a group of people, whether it's 3 people or 3,000 people. They're still pouring it out like they're playing Wembley Arena.
Yeah.
And there's just, it's pure and honest. No matter what their message happens to be, whether you like that message or not, there's something pure about someone getting up there and saying, this is my art, this is how I feel about things, and this is my message, and I got to get it off my chest.
Right.
Sometimes you walk out of a show, you're all juiced up like you feel alive. And then there's other times you walk out and it's like, all right, it was all right. It was cool. It was a mellow vibe, whatever.
Yeah.
I've been in all those situations. Nothing better than leaving a show feeling like you're alive and you haven't felt that way in a while. Whether that time period's a month, a year, who knows? But there's something energizing about it. Say, man, what a great show. Like back in the day before CDs and all that existed, we'd go to concerts and you'd leave the concert at the Spectrum and you'd jump in the car and the local radio station would be broadcasting about that concert.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. And that's an experience that, like, my wife and I talk about all the time. It's like, hey, let's turn the radio on, hear what they're talking about the show. And it's like, they're talking about the Kardashians. Like, you're kidding me, right? So, it's a crazy thing, the cycle you go through. But again, keep in mind, I'm like 1,000 years old when it comes to this stuff. So 50 years of chasing music and artists and all that, I still get psyched up when I buy a record and it's signed. Or, you open it up and it's this colored splatter vinyl or whatever it happens to be. Even if it's just a plain old record, I don't care. It's just, all right, this is new, this is exciting. Every time I buy a collection from people, which we do a lot of, thumbing through, it's like, all right, I don't have that, but wait a minute, I got to sell that. I can't be taking them all home,
right?
So it's crazy. I could talk about music all day.
I could give you an artist that'll make you leave a show feeling really alive. Chris Tone, Kingfish Ingram. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Have you seen him?
Oh yeah.
All right, he's great.
I carry his records.
I saw him at the Exponential Music Festival. I was going to ask you about it. I went there. I didn't know any of the artists.
Right.
And it was amazing. Kingfish was the last show that I saw. I kind of missed out because I was gonna see Tedeschi Trucks, but I was
another killer band.
I was tired, so I was like, I'm gonna go. But we saw Kingfish, and I was like blown away. I love his music, and he became an influence on me like that.
Well, you have a great opportunity to see him this summer.
Yeah.
Over in Upper Marion at the Township Building, they do Rising Sun Productions does a music series called Under the Stars.
I'm going to that.
He's playing this summer.
I think I'm going. I think
the
I already bought
lineup
tickets.
this summer is fantastic. I don't have it off the top of my head, but their lineup is amazing. And every year they bring in great artists.
Yeah.
So he's on the bill.
I know I'm going to see that, and then like a week after, I'm going to see Sonny Landreth.
Nice.
And my dad's just been like hooking me up with tickets for for like blues artists that I like.
Yeah.
It's been great, and he's like, he's what kind of got me into like listening to other types of music, because I asked him one day, I was like, hey, you have any this is going to lead into my last question, but I was like, do you have any like a box of records that I can just look through? He's like, yeah, I got a bunch of CDs, and like I just picked out bands, and he picked out some that I might like, and there's some of my favorite bands now, just random bands that I'd never heard of, random artists, and then I love that.
Oh yeah, It's great. Well, think about this. You just said something here. My dad's got me into this, and this, and this. Well, my dad was an Elvis freak. Elvis and Sinatra. And that led me into a whole different path. Like to me, like Sinatra is still probably the smoothest guy out there for a lot of different reasons. He was kind of an enigma along with Elvis. Elvis was an incredible artist that got exploited, but still somehow is legendary in his career. I remember the day Elvis died, but my dad is the whole reason that I'm into music to the depth that I am. He would say, if he was still with us, he'd say, you're still wasting time with this rock and roll stuff. Yeah, Dad, I am. But you're right. There's something about that. You get that box of records in, and some of my favorite records that I own were ones I'd never heard of, never heard of the artist, not heard a note off the record, but that album cover was like, whoa, this is insane.
Something just draws you into it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, way back in the 90s when Smashing Pumpkins' first record came out, records weren't packed like they are today. They pack them today like they're made of porcelain. But back in the day, they were just in, cubes, boxes shaped in cubes that were 12 inches square. And opened this box up, and the first record on the top, this came from Relativity Records, Smashing Pumpkins, Gish. And I looked at people I was working with. We're playing this record next. And they're like, why? I'm like, it says Gish. They said, so? I said, that's the sound a pumpkin makes when you smash one.
Yeah.
And they're like, seriously? I'm like, your parents never let you smash a pumpkin? Come on. What's wrong with you? So we played that record probably 2 or 3 times in a row. Just flip, 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 flip. And it was mind-blowing. And the record next under that was Nine Inch Nails' first record called Pretty Hate Machine. I said, we're playing this just on how screwed up this cover is.
Yeah.
And then we're playing it, and it's like, whoa. So that was like my first intro to some of that industrial electronic music. And that record was violence distilled into 2 sides of vinyl. Jesus. And it was incredible. And people in the shop were like, what is this? And then there's one song that's got this particular line about the devil and what he's going to do to me. And it was like everybody's head swiveled around like, what the heck was that? I'm like, I picked it. That's mine. I did that. And we played that one again, too.
Yeah.
And these are things, again, that still, look, those records still stick with me. They still resonate with me from the perspective of the impact. So many great bands that didn't start out in the mainstream. Like Nine Inch Nails today is a household name. But back in the early 90s, not so much. Same thing with bands like Jane's Addiction, Violent Femmes, all these things. Today there are bands, because of the internet, you can hear about bands that you'd never hear of before. They would just play in garages locally and high school gyms and local pubs that they would never get out of their little hometown. Now, with the internet,
to blow up.
Musical world is wide open. You can find bands that live in, the Ukraine or, there's bands all over the world that you can find with relative ease today.
Yeah.
So, music speaks to people in so many ways. It's great.
And the last question that I have, at least, the last written one, is if you had to recommend 10 essential records to music lovers, musicians, or people who want to expand their taste, what would they be?
Oh, there's about 150 records on that list.
Take the top 10.
I've often joked. I said, when you're born, they should issue, before you give you your social security number, these are the 10 records that you get when you're born. And you'd have to have London Calling by the Clash, the Ramones' first record, Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Led Zeppelin 1, REM's first record, Murmur. Let's see. It's hard to just pull it down to 10 because there's so many. Jane's Addiction, the live record, the first record that was on Triple X before they got signed. I would say Temple of the Dog, because in my brain it's still the best record to come out of Seattle. So that's 7. U2 Boy, because it's a perfect record. All Shook Down by the Replacements. And I would say Wake of the Flood by the Grateful Dead.
Yes. All right.
Most people will go for American Beauty and Working Man's, but they're incredible records. But
I've got all 3 of those.
I'm a bigger fan of the latter. So, but that's 10. But tomorrow that list could be totally different. You know, tomorrow could have, British Steel by Judas Priest on it. I mean,
it all depends.
But I feel like everyone needs a musical starter kit, and that it should be more diverse than what I've mentioned. It should have a jazz record, a blues record, a rock and roll record, a hip hop record, a pop record, and not obvious choices sometimes, And I feel like too many times record lists are the obvious choices,
It's just like, oh yeah, of course it's Van Halen 1 on there. Is like,
well, sure. I mean, that record's mind-numbingly good.
Yeah.
They just repressed that as a mobile sound fidelity release, and it sounds like they're in the room with you.
That's
that
awesome.
Good. Yeah. That was another one of those records. I remember the moment I bought that record and went home and threw that right on. Friday night, what are you doing? Oh, I'm staying home. I'm going to listen to that Halen record. Loser. Yep, I'm a loser, but I'm going to have fun with this record.
Yeah. I mean, when I bought it on CD first. I had never got to fully, because I'd just been listening to it on shuffle on Spotify, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I heard the eruption that You Really Got Me.
Oh yeah,
it's what a
Well, see, that's the thing too. That's it. It's a very cool statement that you made, because there are people that are radio listeners.
Yeah,
give me one song at a time. Give me the hits. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yeah,
because no one should ever tell anyone how or what kind of music they should listen to, because music is like ice cream, and they make 31 flavors for a reason. Because not everybody likes chocolate. Some people like butter rum, So, telling someone how they should listen to music is, in my brain, totally that's just kicking them in the teeth, and that's not right.
Yeah.
I feel like, for me, I'm an album listener. I don't care if the song that I heard on the radio is the single and it's the 4th song in. I'm not starting there.
Yeah.
Put the needle on at the beginning, flip that record over, and go to the end every time. If I don't have time to listen to the whole record,
it's at least half of it.
Well, I'll put it on, and then, all right, I got to go have dinner with whoever. We stop that record there. The next time we come back, we start again there.
Right.
Every time. That's just the way I've always been. So it's pretty cool. Music's great.
Yeah.
Outside of my relationship with my wife and my children, music's probably the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
So, pretty cool.
It's just sometimes you don't even have to know the names of the songs. Sometimes whenever I get a new record that I've never heard the band before, it's just I don't care about the name of the song at that point. I just listen to it all the way through.
The CD kind of messed up track songs for me, because oh yeah, number 6, what a great song.
Yeah.
Not whatever it happens to be.
20 minutes into the...
Yeah. So, I've gone out of my way to make sure that, you know the names of the songs. Because not every artist puts the name of the song in the lyrics.
Right.
That's okay too. I think, one of the most important things in this whole conversation for people to take away is that music brings out a lot of emotions, and sometimes there's an artist I listen to. The name of the band is American Aquarium, and they're kind of an outlaw country band, I would say, is probably the best way to describe them. But the guy who writes the lyrics, he writes sad songs. Sad songs make people happy because you realize someone else is having the same kind of day you're having. And that makes you feel good because you don't feel alone then.
Yeah.
But then on that same record is a song that makes you happy and energizes you, Again, music parallels your emotions and the way you feel about things and takes you to a new place or brings you back to an old place.
And often
it's incredible.
And often what, you end up finding is like your brain just kind of attaches like certain memories to certain songs. Like there are some songs I can't listen to as much anymore. It'll like bring me back to like one moment, and I don't want to have to remember it. So it's like it'll be something I played when I was like younger, and like, something wasn't going right, and I listened to that song or whatever, or I was like upset, and I don't want to like relive that, so I don't listen to that song as much.
Yeah.
But when I do, it's like it'll just drop me straight back, and then I feel like, a little off for the rest of the day because I'm so far back in that feeling.
Oh yeah. When my father passed away many, many moons ago, it seems, U2 put out a record called All That You Can't Leave Behind. And that record was so clearly about one's mortality, whether it's your own or the human race or whatever it happens to be. But that entire band was dealing with their own mortality as they were losing parents and loved ones due to age or illness and whatnot. And my father passed away suddenly. I listened to that record every day for a year.
Wow.
On my way to work. And for the first 6 months, I shed a tear every single day listening to that record on the way to work. And it was a cathartic experience for me because it helped me deal with his loss, because he wasn't ill. He just had a massive heart attack. So, boom, game change. Everything is done with that. There is no more relationship with my father in the sense that I could call him up and say, "Hey, Dad, how's it going?"
Right. So
that helped me heal. So and when I listen to that record today, it takes me back to there, but in a different light. Now I sit back and I listen to that and I say, you know what? Mortality is something we all have to deal with.
Right.
But it helped me get okay with his passing because it allowed me that time to go through all that, retrace those steps, and heal in that moment. So, now it's a different feeling, but it still takes me back to there, Sometimes, you can't listen to that record or another record that reminds you of another event. So you go to a different avenue, that's the beauty of this. And that's what the best part of having a record shop is. We provide therapy of sorts, if you will, for folks that are looking for something that makes them feel a certain way.
Yeah.
It's crazy cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy cool. And young folks like yourself, they keep us chasing stuff that we might just stop chasing because we're getting old. Some days, I sit back and I say, I'm 60, but I don't feel that way. We like new bands like the Struts and Dirty Honey and all that stuff too, because they have picked up the torch of things that we grew up listening to in the 80s.
Yeah.
The Struts, the singer for the Struts wants to be Freddie Mercury so bad. And he's fantastic. He's phenomenal, And it makes me happy. I go see the Struts, and I don't care if it's me and them in the room or me and 10,000 screaming people. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So happy and sad together, man. It's all good. Sad songs make you happy. Happy songs make you even happier.
Right. And it's just like cycle repeats until you're like,
Yeah.
I mean, people come up to me at concerts, or people come up to me and my dad at concerts. That's, typically who I go with. And they're just like, give him a nod. They're like, hey, good dad, you're putting him onto this early.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah,
I feel good,
Yeah. We started with our kids. My first concert I went to with my kids to was the Jonas Brothers back in the Disney days.
Yeah, oh man.
And it was awesome. They were incredible. They were absolutely incredible. And went into that room knowing that, the kids were listening to the Jonas Brothers or whatever, and they were young, little kids. My daughter could have been 4 or 5. She's going to be 22 in another month or so. So, totally went into that experience just like, this is going to be insane, just screaming kids and all that. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you go and you take your kids to this. My kids go to concerts, like, it's all over the place for them, and they see all kinds of different people. My son's big into punk and all that kind of thing, but his fiance is more into Maggie Rogers and The National and that kind of thing. So they go and see all of it,
Right.
My daughter's more into the whole pop scene, so she goes and sees all that stuff, Ariana Grande and all that kind of stuff. So there's something for everybody. That's the other great thing about music is that it's not singular. It's It's whatever mood you're in, and there's no rules.
Yeah.
The rules are have fun.
Yeah. Eddie
All
Van
the
Halen
time.
type of.
So it's cool. This morning I'm going to listen to a record that got dropped off yesterday by a band called The Miners, and it's like an alt country kind of thing. Met the gentleman yesterday, and I said, "Sure, we'll put your record in the bin, and I'll spin it today." So today that'll be the first record I play. Just check it out and hear what they got to say.
Maybe I'll stop by.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good stuff, So, so yeah, this is great. This was a good thing to do. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for wanting to do this.
It's cool. Like I said, this is the kind of thing that brings community together. Here we are at a local station here in Phoenixville. And it's interesting because I guess my wife must have picked up on you folks maybe about a year or so ago. We're driving down the road, and she says, because I forget how she happened upon you folks. It was whether setting the radio dial or something and picked up signal. And she says, "I swear they're saying WXPN." I said, "Okay." But then I'm listening. I'm like, this is not WXPN. Similar but different. So it's kind of fun. Now it's like, let's just put this on and see what's happening,
Yeah.
and see what's going on and that kind of thing. So it's cool. This is awesome. It's like pirate radio, except not pirate radio. It's cool though. It's just like independent record labels.
Yeah. They do whatever they want. And it's great.
Yeah, man. The last time I checked, this is still America.
Yeah.
Not sure for how much longer, but we'll see. But so yeah, it's great. So I love what you guys do. I think it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So hope everything goes well enough to keep the lights on and keep this running.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Curt. Thank you for joining us. If you want to say anything, get people to come to the store. I think you've said enough, but
well, I got to get back down to the shop. We open at noon today. Swing through. We're open Thursdays through Sundays. Lots of local folks know that. But for those who don't, we're open noon to 6 on Thursdays and Sundays and noon to 8 on Fridays and Saturdays. There's always something cool going on. As you well know, Phoenixville's a town. It never sleeps, it seems. So swing by. Come on, check us out. There's always something good happening. Right. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
Good talk.
Excellent.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Spotlight on WXPM 98.5 FM. Check out WXPM985.org for more great local content.